Welcome to the Spectrum Center after midnight. It is officially 12:57 a.m. that we're recording this.
One day.
You guys will see this at some point when you're awake. But we wanted to just kind of wrap up this entire day that we've been here. We got here at like 10 a.m. Today. And so now we're heading into Friday morning now. Pretty long day. But NC State, they lost to Virginia by 7 points. It's 81-74. Duke barely escapes Florida State. Final score 80-79. And then Carolina barely loses to Clemson. Final score 80-79. So only one triangle team left. And Duke, but just first off, before we get into those games, what a crazy day here at Spectrum Center for our teams.
Yeah, I mean, as tired as we are, we got to take a step back and realize we are living the dream here. A whole day, 3 basketball games that we watched, covered, reported on, and are still, you can hear it in my voice, I'm losing it, getting over a cold here, powering through. Great problems to have. And, yeah, kind of an adventurous day in triangle basketball. And I think probably the theme to me for it, Chris, is just like, all right, what team are we going to get?
Yeah.
And with NC State coming in here, it was all the losses and the way they were limping into the ACC tournament and limping into the NCAA tournament. With Carolina, it was like, what team are we going to get without Caleb Wilson? And with Duke, obviously the same kind of story with now Patrick Gungba for the ACC tournament and Caleb Foster out for potentially all of the tournaments, maybe back in the Final Four, according to John Shire. And I think we got some of those questions answered here tonight. And Duke probably the headline because they're the team with the highest ceiling that's maybe capped a little bit with the Foster injury, but we got a good sample size of what that looks like here versus Florida State.
Yeah, we'll start with that one. We got a chance to see what that looked like. And first off, seeing Pat Gungba and Caleb Foster roll out here on their like scooters and matching, boots. It was kind of tough to look at, and you just kind of feel for those guys because you know that they wanted to be here for this very moment. But Duke has to figure it out without him because time is going to roll on without him. Caden Boozer gets the start, and he's at point guard. It felt like in the first half, the lights were just way too bright for him. There were turnovers. I didn't look at the final turnovers, but I want to say Duke had 8 or 9 in the first half. They averaged 10 per game. So you're talking about like they were on a historic clip, right there for the season, just with turnovers in the first half. And then all of a sudden, Florida State was able to come back in the second half, get an 8-point lead on Duke, and things just didn't look good. Caden Boozer was in foul trouble. He eventually comes back, scores some big points, actually scored the game winner, you could call it, off of the Isaiah Evans miss, and comes to get it off the glass for the putback. And so he had his kind of redemption moment there in the game as he was able to finally figure it out. But Duke, you could tell that they were hurting from it. Caden Boozer 4 fouls, Malik Brown 4 fouls. If that thing went into overtime, I'm not sure if they would have been able to survive it.
Yeah, and Florida State brought it, right? And it was kind of a perfect storm because Florida State needed that game, needed to win every game here in Charlotte to make it in. And they were one of the hottest teams in the country. Like, I feel bad for them as weak as the bubble is out there. Florida State is certainly a tournament team tonight. They're probably not going to get in. Maybe if they'd beaten Duke, they might have gotten some consideration from the committee. Meanwhile, Duke doesn't need this at all. Even if they do win it here in Charlotte, the celebration is going to be even more muted than it was last year in Charlotte. But they do need to figure some things out. And Florida State was a great test case for them because, you could look at it and be like, oh, wow, Duke struggled versus Florida State. Florida State is a good team. They're well coached. Luke Laux is a guy to watch, I think.
Yeah.
And he's running this kind of matchup zone that caused Duke a lot of trouble. But I go back to that moment where they were down 8 in the second half with about, 13 minutes to go. And it's the inverse of an inflection point. A lot of the inflection point Shire talks about when they're up and they're expecting another team to come up. That was the inflection point for them. And they rattle off what ended up being, an 18-2 run?
Yeah.
To take control of the game. Yeah. And Florida State did not go away. And Duke needed to execute in the final minutes. And Florida State had a shot at the buzzer to win it. So, yeah, I think my takeaway from Duke is I'm not concerned, but their margin for error has clearly gone down. But, again, this is without Patrick Gungba, who's going to be back, and his size was clearly missed.
Every team's not going to do what we saw, in this game to Duke. And one of the things that kind of stood out to me was if you look at Robert McCray, the point guard for Florida State, 25 points. And I mean, he was just super dynamic in that game. And then also, I was trying to make sure I got the guy's name correctly. It was LaJay Jones. He's their senior. He's a 6'7" guard, but man, he's tall. He was 8 for 15 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, 28 points, led them in scoring. And it kind of encapsulated what makes Duke uneasy. If you have a really athletic point guard that can slash the defense, get into the teeth of the defense, and create for his teammates, that's going to give them problems. Think Darius Acuff,
Arkansas.
you know, and, also think like for when they played Texas Tech, think JT Toppin. Well, that's not a point guard, but that's going to be my next point.
Yeah.
The next thing that makes them uncomfortable is also the big, wing that can stretch the floor. And then that's JT Toppin. And then that's also LaJay Jones here for Florida State today. And then also Caleb Wilson.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Back at Carolina. So it was like the perfect storm of what can give Duke some problems in this game, and you're down 2 starters in this game. They were able to still come back and get that win. And, but Florida State gave them a run for it towards the end. I mean, they were able to close in after Duke had gotten to I think a 9 or 10 point lead towards the end of that game. So some soul searching there. John Shire said after the game, Florida State gave him some looks that you just can't practice. You can't prepare for what you saw in practice. Now he knows what to kind of prepare for other teams. It almost feels like, and we'll see what happens versus Clemson, and we'll talk about that matchup. It almost feels like this game could potentially make Duke a little bit more dangerous because now they know exactly what they're up against. And John Shire now has 24 hours to kind of game plan what that looks like versus another team.
Yeah, it's good to get humbled a little bit, whether they win it all here or not, because you don't want to peak at the wrong time. I mean, there's nothing wrong with peaking, right? Some teams never get to the peak.
For sure.
Duke was blowing out the best teams in the conference by 30 heading into the ACC tournament. I mean, they couldn't get any better. And then these kind of slew of injuries kind of creep in that UNC game, and all of a sudden they're not the favorite that you expected them to be. I still think they will be the number 1 overall seed
for sure.
In the NCAA tournament. I still think they're probably going to win here in Charlotte after surviving that versus Florida State. And we haven't mentioned Isaiah Evans yet, who stepped up huge.
Oh, yeah.
Loves playing in the Spectrum Center.
It's home.
Loves playing Florida State.
Yeah.
As me and you were going back and forth. I'm like, what's his career high? I'm Googling it. I'm like, oh, it was 28. You're like, that was versus Florida State. I'm like, oh, did Google get it wrong? I'm like, oh, it was versus Florida State in the previous matchup.
Yeah.
And he gets 32 in this one, and they needed every bit of it.
Which was another close game, too. Florida State plays
a 4-point game.
Yeah.
So, Evans goes off, and they needed somebody else to step up because Gongba is their 3rd leading scorer. He plays a different position, but a lot of ways it followed like a familiar Duke script, though, right? Like, as uneasy as it maybe made you feel, it's like it's a quiet first half for Cam Boozer. Evans is able to lift them in the first half. Boozer steps up big in the second half. Cue the 20-2 run.
Yeah.
Which is it wasn't exactly 20-2, but like there always seems to be one.
Yeah.
For Duke.
Yeah.
And they had it again in this one. And if you were like looking at the point spread, like I was like during the game trying to get a gauge of it, it's like first half, even when like Florida State was in it, it was like still 14-point favorite for Duke. And I was like, man, I don't like that. That's a lot of, I don't want to buy, I don't want to buy high on Florida State there, but I also am terrified to lay that with Duke live, and you should have been, but they show why the number is there. The respect is because at any given time they can just go off 20-2.
One of the things that I think that Duke will have to be concerned about if it is going to be without Patrick Gungba, when Malik Brown is in foul trouble and he's not on the floor, Cameron Boozer, he's going to get double and triple teamed down low, and it's going to be a lot harder for him. And I thought that's what, he worked for all 23 of his points. Like, his 23 points did not come easy. He missed a lot of layups, but that's because Florida State used their length, and they, altered some shots right there at the bucket So, Malik Brown is going to have to make sure he understands how important he is so he can stay on the court. And I think another reason where you see another place, I should say, where you see the missing pieces of Gungba and Foster, those guys are two of the best facilitators on the team. Pat, of course, Caleb Foster. I'm trying not to say Caleb
names.
I'm trying not to say Pat Welter and Caleb Wilson. We'll talk about Caleb Wilson soon.
It is 1 a.m. here in Charlotte.
It has been a long day. It's a 15-hour day. But Caleb Foster can easily, he may not score a lot, can easily dish out 8 assists in a game and find guys in open spots. He also knows when to slow things down. He knows when to take care of the ball and things like that. Things that Caden Boozer was kind of missing. And then also Pat Gungba, they use him a lot at the top of the key just to look over the defense. Mm-hmm. Everybody else is running their different actions, and he's a good passer, so he can get to people in their spots right when they're cutting at the right moment, and he gets a lot of assists just off of that. That's what they were missing, and they're going to be missing that tomorrow versus Clemson, who played a hell of a game versus UNC today, but UNC almost came back.
Yeah, same score.
Same exact score.
Very different stories as far as like how the actual narrative of the game played out. In a way, it's familiar because this is, what are we in now? Year 5 of Hubert Davis, and how many times have I felt like I've said the same story with them where they just don't come out with Mr. Energy effort is Hubert Davis's calling card, and his team so often don't come out with it. Now, I'll give him a little bit of a pass. 9:30 tip. You're playing a team that had already played a game. Understandable. But at the same time, it's like, this is March. Like, what are you waiting for? Like, you're too good to play Clemson. Now, they had just beat Clemson at home and needed a Luka Bogovic's career high to survive that one. And in this one, I mean, we're getting ready to, like, bury Carolina as, like, a one-and-done NCAA tournament team because they're down 18 in the second half to Clemson. And they easily could have packed it up from there, but they didn't. And it kind of was like one of those like things we're going to see in the NCAA tournament is like a team gets a big lead.
Yep.
A team starts making threes.
Yep.
Team starts playing clock, and Carolina did it. And they hit just about every shot they needed to pull off a pretty crazy comeback here. It was fueled by Henry Vasar and Derek Dixon and Seth Trimble. And Dixon got it down to 1 with 2 seconds to go.
He's going to be a great player for Carolina for years to come. You like the fact that Carolina has the ability to come back versus Duke in this game versus Clemson. There's been other times in other games they're able to come back. But why do you get yourself in these situations in the first place? And, you just to go back to how you even started that, like in North Carolina, right? I know in our area, NC State is the big team, because more alumni live there. There's more kids who actually go to school at NC State. So you have a bigger swath of NC State fans.
Sure.
As somebody who's a North Carolina native, outside of the Triangle area, outside of the 919, Carolina is the biggest game in town. It's true in Greensboro. It's very true here in Charlotte. There's so many people who, after they graduate from UNC Chapel Hill, will come settle right here in Charlotte. This is basically, Greensboro and Charlotte are tied for Carolina's second biggest draw is outside of Chapel Hill. They had an advantage here when it came down to this crowd. Of course, Clemson travels. There's going to be some Clemson people here. But this was a home game for Carolina. And you would hope that they would be able to draw off of the fans and use that energy to do something with it. And they just weren't able to do that. And I thought it was also a bad thing when fans, they did get down, 16, 17 in the game. There's like 10 minutes left and fans are already leaving. I was setting up for a live shot for WRAL News at 11 o'clock.
Leaving.
You did tell me that after the game. Fans were leaving, and after I went down to the elevator, I didn't tell you this, the elevator operator, I'm going down with like 4 minutes left in the game. Elevator operator's like, is the game over? It's like, no, there's still some time left. He was like, I've been busy the last few minutes. This elevator's been moving because fans are leaving. I was like, yeah, well, Carolina's down. I put our stuff back, come sit out here, a press row, and then all of a sudden the comeback is happening. And you see that going on. It's like, where was this Carolina the entire game? And I wouldn't say this is just a Hubert Davis problem. I would say this also dates back to the last few years of Roy. His mentor was, I felt like, had times where it's like, when are you going to get your team into it? Why aren't you guys ready for this? You go back to their 2019 season, 2018, 2019, or maybe I'm thinking about 2019, 2020, the year with Cole Anthony. That team massively underachieved as well. It was right before Baycott and Love and Davis came in. That team underachieved. They had too much talent to go down the way they did, but it was the same thing. They just couldn't get out the blocks. This team is a lot better. I'm not trying to say that they're like this, but it just feels like this has been a Carolina problem for a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, how many times are you going to do the same interview over and over again?
Yeah.
So Trimble even said it in the locker room to us. He's like, it's just 2 games in a row where we weren't the tougher team. We weren't tough enough. And this is the Duke game.
Yeah.
And this is your ACC tournament game.
Yeah.
Like, these aren't like playing X non-conference game in December or a sleepy game on the West Coast. You know, that West Coast road trip that we've lamented so many times this season.
Yeah.
This is March. This is the time. So all you can hope is that it's a wake-up call for Carolina. But, I mean, I think it's just they're on alert here to be one and done in the NCAA tournament. Because of all the why does Carolina struggle to show up? Well, because every team gives them their best shot because they're Carolina.
Yeah.
And John Shire and Duke have done a good job of getting Duke to overcome that kind of concept. Hubert Davis never seems to have been able to do that here. You know, Caleb Wilson, that's why he was so special, is because he was giving them that edge that they lacked. You know, going back to the Duke game in Chapel Hill, like him lifting the whole team in that first half, so that in the second half they could still do the comeback. But if it wasn't for him in the first half and that edge, the comeback never happens. So the comeback did happen in this one. At least it makes you feel a little bit better going into the NCAA tournament, because if it didn't happen at all, you're like, what did we just see?
I will say this, but that's against Clemson. Like, you go against a team that's a lot better. Let's say you happen to be matched up against Florida, or you happen to be matched up against Purdue or Alabama, a team like that. Like, it's not going to be as easy to come back on that level of a team. You know, Clemson had their cup of coffee in the top 25, and then they fell out. You know, they are a tournament team. They're a good team. They're a tournament team. They're just not the level of team that this should be happening to Carolina. It shouldn't be happening to them versus that team. So, you know, we'll have to see if they make those adjustments. You asked the question to Seth Trimble, hey, like, the next game could be your last. And it does feel as if, like, there's a fire lit under him to make sure that isn't his last game, that he actually has, you know, some sort of a run in the NCAA tournament. Was it his freshman year? Was that the last time? That wasn't the Coach K game.
No, he started the year after.
Yeah, that was after. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, I thought Trimble showed fight. I thought Vasar showed fight. I thought Stevenson showed fight, to name 3. Obviously, Dixon hit a lot of shots. So there's some stuff to go around. It's just, you know, they're missing something. They're missing something.
Caleb Wilson.
They're missing. Oh, that would be it. That would be it. Yeah, that's who.
Caleb Wilson.
They're fabulous freshmen. So hey, he's not coming back as much as he would love to. We are going to come back to Charlotte later today. So
thank you for, first off, if you got through this, we are not our sharpest right now.
Yeah, my voice
It's been a long day.
I need to have some water. You're like, God, get this Welter kid off of my headphones. I can't listen to this voice anymore. So for Chris Lee, unless you have anything further to say.
I need to rest.
Yeah. Good night. We'll see you guys later today. See ya.